would you describe the state of the world today?
How would I describe the state of the world today?
Yeah.
Well, I think that we're in a very serious situation. The humanity is at war with the planet Earth. That I don't see that our civilization will last another 100 years, considering the circumstances that we're in. The problem is that we no longer live in harmony. We haven't for some time lived in harmony with the natural world. We're living outside of the basic laws of ecology, and nobody's really thinking too much about the future. The problem with humanity is that we have a lack of vision and certainly no memory of the past. We don't learn from the lessons, and we fail to see what this world is going to be like 50, 100, 200,000 years from now. And everything is in the moment, short-term investment for short-term gain, how much can we make in our personal lives, what's in it for us. And that kind of philosophy is not going to sustain humanity.
So this is where it gets a little bit philosophical, and I'm sure you must have considered this. What do you think it is in human nature? Do you think that we are an innately conflicted species? I mean, is it part of our evolutionary process?
Well, first of all, we're primates, and in my opinion, we've become overly conceited, naked apes who are divine legends in our own mind. We've created this delusion that we are the center of creation, and that's something that happened about 10, 12,000 years ago. Prior to that, we were part of nature. We were part of the biocentric reality. We converted that into this anthropocentric point of view, where we believe that all of creation was specifically made for us, and therefore we even manufactured our gods who are in our image. Every single religion that we have right now, predominant religion, I'm not talking indigenous cultures, always puts humankind at the center of creation, and to me that's a big lie. It's really a sort of collective mass psychosis.
Do you have a spiritual bent? Do you see there as being a divine force in the universe?
No, I have an ecological point of view. I observe the laws of ecology, the law of diversity, the law of interdependence, the law of finite resources. I believe that the only way we can survive is by living in harmony with all other species and recognizing our place within the biosphere, that we're not better than any other species. In some cases, we're not as important. I mean, the world can, worms and bees and trees, fish can live without us, but we can't live without them. So that makes them ecologically far more important than we are.
So if we are part of the ecology, do you see there as being any purpose for how man has evolved?
Well, there's always a purpose for every creature within any ecological system. We've violated the laws of ecology, and every species throughout the history of, for millions of years that has not lived in accordance with those laws has gone extinct. Right now, the law of diversity, that the strength of an ecosystem is in the diversity within it. We are diminishing that diversity. The law of interdependence, that all the species within that diversity are interdependent with each other, and we've diminished that. The law of finite resources, there's a limit to growth, there's a limit to carrying capacity, and for our numbers and our greed to increase, we have to steal the carrying capacity from other species. They have to simply disappear so we can take what was theirs. But the problem is that undermines the law of interdependence and diversity. And the ultimate consequence of that is crash, collapse.
So do you think it's going to take disaster for humanity to understand that nature is not just a resource?
Well, we have a choice. We have a choice to voluntarily find a way to live in harmony with other species and with the planet, or nature will take care of the problem for us. I'm always internally optimistic for very good reason, is that we can't destroy this planet. It'll be here a million years from now. We could destroy ourselves. But I see the entire conservation environmental movement as a movement to save humanity, not a movement to save the Earth. We're right now in the sixth major extinction called the Holocene. And there's been 5 other major extinctions prior to this. It usually takes the planet 18 to 20 million years to recover from a massive major extinction event. And that's what will happen in this case if we succeed in, causing that major extinction event. But what I look upon it is that we have the opportunity to have a future for humanity. And we're only going to have that future if we learn to live in harmony with all the other species and understand that we are part of everything. We're not lord and master of everything.
So where, in your view, does real change take place? I mean, obviously, community has to change, the idea of community. But even within like the environmental community, there's competition. Within the New Age community, there's competition. It seems like we're just like a competitive creature that can't seem to rally it.
Well, I think Einstein was the one who said that human beings are primitive creatures with whose technology has far exceeded their ability to harness it. And that's really where we're at. Competition, territoriality, racism, all of these things. I've always referred to myself as a misanthrope, and everybody looks down upon misanthropy as something sort of negative. I look on it as something very positive, because what I've discovered with misanthropic people is they have a great love and respect for individual people. We just don't like the species. But therefore, I think we're far more forgiving of people as individuals. But when you look at the species as a whole, there's something very wrong with that. The turning point in my life was in 1975 when a whale was harpooned in the North Pacific by the Russian whaling fleet. And a wounded whale could have taken my life. It rose up out of the water, and its next move would be to fall upon our boat. And I looked up at this whale as his head came up and out of the water. I could have almost reached up and grabbed the 6-inch teeth in his lower jaw. And what I saw in that eye changed my life forever, because I saw understanding. That whale understood what we were trying to do, because I could see the physical effort he made to pull himself back, and he didn't come forward and crush us. He slid back into the sea, and I saw his eye disappear beneath the surface, and he died. Could have killed us, and chose not to do so. So I feel personally indebted to that whale. But as I sat there in that boat, that little Zodiac in the middle of the North Pacific, I said to myself, why are the Russians killing these whales? You don't eat sperm whales. You kill them for sperm oil and spermaceti oil, which is a very expensive oil because it's very highly heat-resistant oil, and it's used for industrial machinery. And one of the things that was very much, and in fact may still be, in demand was for the construction of intercontinental ballistic missiles. And I said to myself, here we are killing this extremely intelligent, socially complex, beautiful creature for the purpose of making a weapon meant for the mass extermination of humanity. And that's when it occurred to me that we're ecologically insane. And from that moment on, I said to myself, I'm not here to defend people. I'm here to defend them. The whales, the dolphins, the turtles, the other creatures, or as Farley Mowat once described, the others. That's why they put me beyond criticism. When people say, well, we don't like your tactics, I said, well, it's okay, you don't have to like my tactics. I don't do what I do for you. I do what I do for the whales and the dolphins and the other creatures. I mean, find me one whale that disagrees with our tactics, and I might reconsider my approach. But right now, it really doesn't concern me what the opinions of human beings are about what I do. I think that our history has proven that although we are aggressive or nonviolent, I've never caused a single injury to a single person. I call what we do aggressive nonviolence, intervention. But we live in a world which is defined by media, and the media has taken the role that if you oppose property, you're violent. If you non-violently oppose violence, you're violent. A terrorist today is anybody who opposes the tar sands in Canada, for example. People are going to jail because they have websites that are criticizing corporations. This is turned the whole thing over because governments have a monopoly on violence, and they are going to decide who's going to live and who's going to die. It's interesting, when my daughter, she's 34 now, but when she was 8 years old, I got a note from her teacher because her teacher was upset because the question was, what is government? And my daughter, her answer was, it's a bunch of men who get together to kill animals and people. And the teacher was concerned about my daughter's antisocial perspective. And I said, well, I think that sounds like a pretty accurate description of government to me. And she said, well, you shouldn't be teaching your children that. I said, I'm not teaching her anything. That's her own observation. But I'll tell you what, I'll tell you right now, you don't tell my daughter how to think, And and this is really what our educational system is all about. Taking beautiful children, destroying their intuition, destroying their intuitive understanding of what the world is all about, and making them into idiots. I have a great respect for children. They understand intuitively what's going on. I mean, in my own life, I remember two things when I was young that I was ridiculed for and punished for. One time I cut up a map of the world, and I put the continents together, and I told the teacher, I said, I think there was only one continent one time, because they all fit together like a jigsaw puzzle. And I was told that I was ridiculous for even thinking that. As an adult, I found out I was right. I also said that I thought dinosaurs were birds, and that they had feathers. Again, I was told that that was ridiculous. I found out later in my adult life I was right. How did I know that as a child? Because it just made logical sense. It made sense. When I looked at a Tyrannosaurus rex and I looked at a bird, I was looking at the same thing. So what we do is we take children and we destroy their intuitive intelligence. Back in 1975, when we were doing the first campaign to protect whales, we stopped in the Queen Charlotte Islands, and we had the opportunity to speak to the school children there. We started with the kindergarten, and then we went to middle school, then we went to the seniors, and I discovered something very enlightening. In the kindergarten class, we said, how many people here speak Haida? Every single little kid spoke Haida. Mm. How many say, what do you know about whales? We didn't have to say anything. They told us about whales. Middle school, half of them spoke the language, half of them knew anything about whales. But by the senior level, not a one of them spoke Haida, and not one of them cared about whales. What the hell do you want to worry about whales for? So we took all these beautiful, intelligent kids and turned them into idiots. That was what our educational system was all about.
Wow. You're mentioning that the Earth will survive, and that's obviously true. But the one thing with this protest, I've spoken with Nobel Prize winning climatologists and scientists who already say that no matter what, we're going to lose 40 to 50% of species. The Earth is going to warm 6 degrees. The Pentagon's already planning for mass climate refugees. They're planning on blocking off their border. Britain's got the same plan in place. It seems like the powers that be understand what's happening, and yet there seems to be no force acting against it.
Oh, because it's not in the interest of the economic political system that we live in. The man who is in charge of climate change in America says it's a hoax because God wouldn't allow it to happen. He went into Congress with a snowball to prove that there's no such thing as global warming. We have leaders like Harper and Abbott in Australia who basically are idiots, But why are they like that? Because their main focus in life is enrichment of themselves, and they will sell out their mother if it meant making a profit on this. I mean, the level of stupidity which is being demonstrated by the likes of Abbott and Harper and Inhofe in the U.S. can only be explained by having an incredible self-interest in being stupid.
So are they psychopaths? I mean, they're educated people. I mean,
they are psychopaths, just like all corporations are psychopaths.
Right.
They are psychopaths because they don't care about their children. They don't care about the future. They don't even think about it. They are deluded because of this collective mass psychosis, which is religion, which tells them that they are all important, that tells them that they have a God made in their image, which is going to defend anything they stand for. Inhofe thinks that the environmentalist movement is a modern Nazi revival. He believes the EPA is a fascist organization. This is based on the fact that he bases his entire political reality on a 2,000-year-old book. A book that doesn't even recognize the existence of Australia, Antarctica, or the Americas.
So where do you see real change taking place? I've interviewed a lot of people, and by far the most popular video is Kevin O'Leary. He's a billionaire capitalist. His mantra is he wants to go to sleep richer than he woke up, right? So he represents that mindset, and he flaunts it. But he's very popular. I mean, it seems like the average Joe have bought into that. That's the idea of progress, and that's the idea of advancement. So how does that change? Is it just education? Are some people innately sensitive?
Well, we live in the world's most educated era ever. There's never been a generation that's been more affluent and more educated than the last 2 generations that we've been involved in. People know, they just simply don't care. It's a level of apathy. On Monday, a good friend of mine died, Sam Simon, who is very wealthy. He created The Simpsons and other TV shows. It's interesting what he said is that, right from the beginning, Sam always gave 10% of everything that he made to charitable organizations. But in 2002, he was diagnosed with cancer and was told he had 3 months to live. He actually lived for 2 years, but he told me that those 2 years were the happiest years of his life. Because he said, where I once gave 10%, I decided to give 100%. And he directed that into helping children and to helping animals. And he says, I've never had a greater sense of satisfaction. This is a man who was dying of cancer, and yet he was happy. He was happy because he understood that things were more important than his own gratification, And he understood that he's not going to take this money with him, and that he could put it to good use, and he did. And not only that, he left a legacy that will continue to put that money into good use into numerous charities. I know quite a few people who have done that. Doug Tompkins, I don't know if you're aware of him.
No.
He was the CEO of Esprit Corporation, and he married the woman who was a co-founder of Patagonia. What did they do with their money? They bought hundreds of thousands of square miles of Argentina and Chile. Why? To preserve it. And they were quite willing in Argentina and Chile to sell them the property, but about 5 years later, the Chilean government said, well, where are the jobs? And he said, what jobs? The jobs you're going to provide by you bought all this land. Where's the mining? Where's the logging? So I didn't buy this land to mine it or log it. I bought it to protect it. The government of Argentina and Chile became extremely angry over that because here was a man who had the power to actually buy that land, but he did something completely unexpected. He bought it to protect it. And I have other friends who have done the same thing. That this is why I'm optimistic, is that, in 1972, we took out a billboard in Vancouver, and on it was one word, ecology, in big letters. And underneath in small words was, look it up and get involved. Nobody even knew what it meant. And yet here, so from that perspective, I've seen the steadily increase in awareness. We're far more aware. But why are things not changing? Because people feel helpless. They feel that they can't do anything. That, how do you fight this system? That's why I set up Sea Shepherd. Sea Shepherd's not an organization. It's a movement. And I set it up to motivate people to understand that they have the power to make a difference, that they can change things. And my crew members have gone on and started other groups. People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals was started by one of my crew members. Because I've always told them that, don't depend upon corporations or governments to solve any problems. They never have, and they never will. All social change, all social revolution throughout history has come from the passion of individuals. Lincoln didn't end slavery. If people look at the real history, they'll find that the Emancipation Proclamation came in 1864, 4 years after the war began. Slavery was still legal in the North. The movement to end slavery started with Wilberforce and went through Douglass. And, but Will Lincoln, of course, got the credit for it. The best example I know of this is Woodrow Wilson, who fought the suffragettes tooth and nail. These are women who were imprisoned, who were tortured, who were beaten, and made great sacrifices to get women the vote. And Woodrow Wilson fought them every step of the way. But when the bill was passed and signed, it was signed by Woodrow Wilson. So today, Woodrow Wilson gets the credit for giving women the vote, even though he was the man who opposed them. So the problem is, but the change came from the passion of those individuals. I can't think of a single revolution in history that was initiated, a positive revolution that is, that was initiated by a government. It all came out from individuals.
So you personally, you seem like you're pretty at peace and pretty relaxed. Do you ever deal with despair?
No, I've never felt.
No?
Back in 1973, I was a medic for the American Indian movement during the occupation of Wounded Knee. And I learned a lot of lessons there. I asked Russell Means I said, we're surrounded here by 2,000 U.S. troops. They're shooting 20,000 rounds a night at us. There's only 400 of us in here. I mean, we don't have a hope in hell of winning this. And he looked at me and he said, well, we don't do what we do because we're going to win. We do what we do because it's the right thing to do. It's the only thing to do. You can't be put off of your beliefs because of overwhelming odds against you. You have to make your stand, and that's what we did. Two men died, 46 were wounded, but, after that, American Indians held their head up high. They had stood up against the might of the United States government and held that ground for 3 months. People have to stand up for what they believe in, and of course they're going to be beaten down, and of course there's going to be sacrifices. I mean, I have to pay the consequences for the positions that I've taken, but I don't have any regrets about that. I knew that was going to be the consequences when I began. But what's the alternative to do nothing?
So is it your conviction that gets you through those moments? I mean, obviously you're in the center of a lot of intense attention. Governments are focused on you. How do you deal with that kind of attention?
Well, I don't really. I just do what I do. Right now, I coordinate a fleet of ships around the world that are involved in direct action campaigns. We have 2 ships now chasing poaching vessels in the Indian Southern Ocean. We have another vessel doing investigations into the vaquita in the Sea of Cortez. We have a campaign in Finland to protect 300 of the species of seals that are left. We're doing campaigns in the Faroe Islands to protect pilot whales, in Japan to protect dolphins. We have people on the beach in Costa Rica protecting turtles. We have people in Cape Verde Island protecting turtles and seabirds. We have people in Australia protecting sharks. I never wanted an organization. I wanted a movement, and that's what we have. I don't control this movement. This movement has taken on a life of its own, and that's exactly what I intended all along, because the Japanese thought that by putting me on the Interpol Red List, by restricting my travel, by making life difficult for me, that would shut down our activities. In fact, it only made us stronger. I can delegate easily from here, but I no longer can go on the ships because I'm not free to travel, but that's okay because I have the captains and officers to do it. But I always knew that was, you're not going to get anything accomplished unless you create enemies. And you just have to realize that you're going to have to deal with those enemies. And the best way to deal with them is to not be stressed out by them. Just, not be concerned about the consequences.
Well, that's easier said than done for some people, but you seem to have a good handle on it.
Yeah, because, really, another thing I learned at Wounded Knee was an attitude on life. It's all summed up in the Lakota expression, which is hokahe. It's a good day to die. In other words, you stand up for what you believe in. And what's the worst thing that can happen to you? It'll kill you. Well, you're going to die anyway. So, it's better to live than to be worried about that.
So what is your core philosophy or value, for lack of a better word, by which you measure your actions in the world?
Oh, well, we measure our effectiveness by the number of lives that we saved in the ocean. There's 6,000 whales in the Southern Ocean that are living free because we intervened. There's 4,000 turtles that are living free off of Costa Rica, Honduras, and Nicaragua because we intervened. There are 1,300 pilot whales that survived because we intervened in the Faroe Islands. That's how we measure our success. And the great thing about it is one of the reasons we have so many volunteers, and we've had about 5,000 volunteers that right now there's 100 on the ships that are volunteering, is because we can give them a sense of achievement. They go out there and they can see the results of their interventions. And that gives people a great, moral uplift. I mean, it gives them a sense of satisfaction that they've actually done something.
And I think that's the cure for that sense of helplessness and despair that a lot of people feel when they see what's going on in this world.
Absolutely, yes.
So if you could make a public service message to humanity, what would you say to people if you could make a public service message?
I have one very simple message, and that is, if the oceans die, we die. We don't live on this planet with a dead ocean. It is the absolute most important thing that anybody can be concerned about is the survival of our oceans and diversity within our oceans. A dead ocean is the end of civilization. And right now, our oceans are dying. So I think it's a responsibility of every person on this planet to be concerned about protecting diversity within our oceans.
And how should people get involved with doing that, do you think?
Well, there are many ways, because the strength of an ecosystem is in diversity. Therefore, the strength of any movement is in diversity. And that doesn't mean, it doesn't matter whether your approach is litigation, legislation, education, direct intervention. It all works towards a common goal. I don't expect everybody to do what I do. Teachers are teachers, and lawyers are lawyers, and writers are writers. They do what they do. Use your skills and your abilities to the best of your ability to make this a better world for tomorrow. And whether that approach is artistic or legal or even political, that's sort of probably the most difficult way to make change. You can. It's all valid, because right now the strength of the environmental movement right now, the strength of it is not the big organizations, not the Greenpeaces or the World Wildlife Funds. It's 3 million registered non-government organizations and the millions and millions of people who are passionately involved in grassroots movements in their local communities. This is what makes the environmental movement. And this is where it's being effective. The very idea that there would be 3 million non-governmental environmental organizations in 1972 was just unimaginable. But that is the way it is right now. So these changes are happening. And we're involved in probably the fastest growing, most non-violent revolutionary movement in the history of humankind. And it's a war. It's a war against ourselves to save ourselves. And if we don't win, we don't survive.
And you're kind of alluding to it earlier. In a way, the paradox is that it has to be a community of solid individuals to make it work.
It has to be a community of diversity, of many approaches. There's a lot of competition, a lot of disagreements between people saying, "Oh, I don't support your approach," or "I don't support your approach." Well, I don't really care. We're all working at it together. If somebody feels that their best way is to get a petition campaign together, personally, I don't think that has much validity. But hey, go ahead, do it. If that's what you feel that you need to do, it certainly can't hurt. If you feel that you want to run for a political office to make a difference, like, for instance, Elizabeth May, who's the single Green Party representative in Parliament in Canada. Hell, why not? I mean, she is making a difference. She's got a voice. She's being heard. That's her choice, and it's working. There's so many ways of doing this, but really what people have to do is harness their own passion and use their own imagination and courageously implement that imagination and that passion to make a difference.
Well, this project is trying to implement passion in various ways to push the evolution of humanity forward in such a way as well. And there's one aspect of the project which I'm going to ask you if you'd be interested in participating in. There is a song involved with the project where we've asked everybody we've interviewed to sing a line from that song. Now, I know it's kind of a scary thing, and I won't show this if you say no, but it's just one line, and it's kind of specifically directed towards you. The line itself is "Sailing Through the Sea."
Oh yeah.
And
I should get my wife to sing it. She's the singer.
you both could. Is that if? Would you be willing to do that?
What do you want me to sing?
It goes sailing through the sea. That's all.
Come here, you sing it, and then I'll sing it with you.
Okay, let's do it.
This is my wife, Yana.
Oh, hi, nice to meet you. So like I said, we've got Bruce Lipton, we've got Noam Chomsky, even Kevin O'Leary. We've got all the. Just talked with Edgar Mitchell yesterday. The moon. He landed on the moon. They've all sang lines, and it'd be awesome to see you both on there as well. So the line goes, "Sailing through the sea."
Can you get that?
1, 2, 3.
Sailing through the sea.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you for being such a good person.
Should have sang. You sing it yourself. You sing it yourself.
No.
You're a professional. You're a professional. I'm not.
No.
That's great. Thank you so much for doing this. I'm a big fan. I was one of the first Greenpeace participants as well, way back in the 70s in Vancouver, and it's an honor to really speak with you.
Well, when we were on 4th Avenue down there. And
Yeah.
It was across from the Bimini pub, I think it was.
Yeah, it's still there, the Bimini.
It is?
Did you ever get back to Vancouver?
I can't leave France.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
But I mean, it's not the worst place to be.
What do you think? Why is it that so many people come out of this city? I mean, the Occupy movement started here.
There's a good reason for that, I think. I mean, Greenpeace was born there, Sea Shepherd was born there. Because in Canada, Vancouver is the place, just like Los Angeles is, or San Francisco is where all the idealists and the dreamers drift to the west. And there's nowhere else to go beyond Vancouver or San Francisco. So I think I think anybody who has any sense of adventure ends up, if you're Canadian, ends up in Canada, and if you're in America, either LA or San Francisco. I mean, Robert came from Winnipeg. I came from the East Coast. I mean, but there was also in Vancouver at that time, I don't know, something very special about the city. And I mean, here you have a city which is close to the ocean, by the mountains. I mean, a stone's throw from the wilderness. I mean, you just go over Grouse Mountain, and suddenly you might as well. There's no city behind you, really. Right. I mean, I remember I took a little pilgrimage myself. I walked over Grouse Mountain, and it was like I was gone into a different world. And it was only just over the mountain was an entire city, but you'd never know it. So I think that the city has really a special kind of magic in that way.
I was going to say actually that I think a lot of the decisions these days come from cities like New York and cityscapes, and Vancouver. Like you say, nature is always right here. We're always influenced by nature. We still get bears and cougars coming into the city, so we're always.
I don't know of any city in the world that has a park like Stanley Park. Yeah. You know,
yeah.
that you can walk 7 miles around a park in the middle of the city. I mean, New York's got a Central Park is just nothing compared to Stanley Park, for instance. And so and not only do you have that, you have the University Endowment lands. You have, and I went to Simon Fraser University, which is like going to University of Mount Olympus, really. Right. You know. So I mean, I remember days when we were there, and they're surrounded by clouds, and I swore we were on Mount Olympus because there was nothing but clouds below us, but everything was cloud-free above us. You know.
Awesome. Thank you so much for talking with me. Thank you.
Whereabouts in the city you live in?
I live in Kerrisdale, just by UBC.
Oh, I know you.
Yeah.
Right there.
Yeah.
So, well, great. Well, nice to speak to you.
Truly an honor to meet you.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Thank you too. Thank you. Bye-bye.